to get a detailed plan written yesterday to give you some direction for your literary text today. Now I can see that in my edit and recraft, I'm going to have to go back and make some changes and fix some errors that I've made along the way. I'm aware that they're there, so I'll make sure that I come back and not just leave them as errors. So next we move on to the actual description of what it was like on the ship. So I've started my next paragraph. Now this is a short text. It doesn't need to be long. 2 or 3 paragraphs is enough. Remember, we're just describing a setting, really. So my next paragraph reads, as we sailed towards a future filled with riches, it wasn't without risk. The wide open sea, sometimes our friend, sometimes our foe, surrounded us like a warm blanket or an ice-cold bath. The dangers that lurked at every corner were many, but we had our eye on the prize. Gold, glory, God. Now, foe here is an enemy. So sometimes the wide open sea was their friend and let them sail smoothly. Sometimes, like in the case of a storm, the wide open sea was their enemy. So I had said in my plan that I wanted to use some personification, as it was something that I found quite challenging. So I'm going to use some personification in the opening sentence of my next paragraph. So as the rain bucketed down, means coming down very hard, it slapped me. It slapped at our faces. Now I'm going to describe the rain. It was cold, but we kept on going. The rain, though, wasn't the worst of it. So now I'm going to describe some of those things that I had in my plan. This was not the worst of it, though. This was not the worst of it, though. Wait for it. With only hard, dried bread to fill our stomachs. Oh, here's another opportunity. So I talked about the pangs of hunger. The rain slapped, but the pangs of hunger punched. So the feeling of hunger punched at our stomachs. The smell of rotting fish. Ugh. The smell of rotting fish filled the air. The storm would surely send them back out to sea, which probably would be a good thing, getting rid of those rotting fish. The storm would surely force them back out to sea. And leave us once again depleted. Ooh, and leave us once again depleted. Depleted means having nothing. So I suppose I'm using that word depleted in 2 ways. Depleted of the food, but probably depleted of their energy as well. Having no energy, having no food. Strangely, these storms, though fierce, brought us excitement. Because even though it would have been scary, these sailors would have known all the risks that they took. So something to break up the monotony, something to break up the mundane days that would have just rolled into each other. Strangely, these storms, though fierce, brought us excitement. They were a break from the mundane. Mundane, meaning same thing over and over again. Or monotony is the same thing over and over again. Mundane is just boring. Monotony of each day. So I've talked about how it felt. I've talked about what we tasted. I've talked about what we smelt. I've talked about what we might have heard. Actually, maybe I haven't talked about what we've heard, so maybe I need to go back to that in my recraft. And I've definitely spoken about what we saw. So I did say in my plan that my final paragraph was going to be this rhetorical question. I'm going to go back to so I have just my hook, then I have my 1-2 paragraphs, and then I'm going to finish my text, my literary description, with a rhetorical question. Would daring to take on the world, because that's what they were doing, it was an unknown world too, take on the world and risk their lives, will be worth paying the ultimate price. And of course, the ultimate price was the loss of life. So I've finished my text there with a rhetorical question and left my reader thinking and pondering the idea of these great voyages and the risks that these explorers took. So there is my text. Tomorrow I will go back and edit and recraft and see where I can make it better, fix any errors that I might have had, and be ready to publish. So moving on to your description, your literary description. What was it like? What do you imagine it was like? What did you see, hear, feel, smell, and taste on board one of those ships? Good luck, Year 4. I can't wait to read your writing.